So in the next part of this chapter, we're going to talk about biochemistry. And biochemistry is really just the study of chemical composition and reactions in living matter. We talk about biochemistry in two major forms, inorganic and organic forms or compounds. Now, inorganic compounds are those which do not contain carbon. So we say that organic compounds are the carbon-containing compounds. So an example of an inorganic compound or molecule could be things like water or salts, or acids and bases, and these are most often inorganic. Now, organic compounds include those things like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and nucleic acids. These are actually the biomolecules of your body, and these are carbon-containing, so they're actually organic compounds. Now, they're both equally essential for life, and in the following videos, we'll actually differentiate between the properties and structure of inorganic and organic compounds. In this video, we're going to focus on those inorganic compounds, though. So water is the first inorganic compound we'll talk about, and it's the most abundant because it actually accounts for 60 to 80% of the volume of your living cells. Now, it's the most important inorganic compound because of different properties like high heat capacity, high heat of vaporization. It's actually a polar solvent, so it helps dissolve molecules of your body. It has some reactivity in biochemical reactions, and it's also involved with cushioning. So in terms of water's high heat capacity, it's actually able to absorb and release heat with very little temperature change. It also stores some heat very well. So what water does then, it actually allows for or prevents for sudden changes in temperature. So it keeps your body warm if it's cool out, and it also keeps your body cool if it's warm out, and therefore allows to prevent rapid changes in body temperature, which is important in our own homeostasis. Now, water also has a high heat of vaporization. What this means is that it requires large amounts of heat to convert water from its liquid to gaseous state. Now, our bodies use this to actually help cool down. So what happens is we can use large amounts of our body temperature and heat to help convert water or sweat in its liquid state to its gaseous state. That actually takes heat away from our body, and we use this for cooling. So we use this heat of vaporization to actually help cool our body down through evaporative cooling. Now, water also functions as a polar solvent. So it dissolves and dissociates other ionic substances and polar molecules. It also forms what we call a hydration sphere around larger charged molecules. Examples of this could be things like salts or proteins. And because it's a polar solvent, it serves our body's major transport medium. So most molecules are dissolved within the watery solutions of our body. Now, what this slide is showing is that example of the hydration sphere that water can do. So that when salts dissolve within water, this is showing water in a vessel here, but what happens is the charged ends of a water molecule can be attracted to the charged ion that can dissociate and dissolve within water. This actually helps to stabilize these ions and allows them to dissolve or be soluble within water itself. So that sodium has a positive charge here. It's going to be attracted to the partially negative charge on water. And chlorine, or chloride rather, has a negative charge here, and because it's an anion, it's got that negative charge, it'll be attracted to the partially positive end of water molecule. In fact, all these water molecules kind of line up and form a sphere around these ions, and that's what we call a hydration sphere. This actually helps to make these salts more soluble or dissolvable within the watery solutions of your body. Now, water has some reactivity as well. Now, for the most part, it doesn't participate in chemical reactions of your body, but water does sometimes play a necessary part in certain reactions like hydrolysis and dehydration. We'll talk about this in a future video, but these types of reactions are used for breaking and making molecules of your body. Now, water is also involved with cushioning. So we know that most of your tissues are full of water, which actually helps to prevent organs from physical trauma. But the cerebrospinal fluid around your brain is also mostly made of water, and this forms a nice cushioning around your brain and spinal cord to prevent, trauma to this very sensitive structure. So in that regard, it actually serves as a cushion. Now, the next type of inorganic molecule we'll talk about, you guys, are the salts. So salts are ionic compounds that can dissociate and separate in water. Now, these salts will separate into cations and anions. An example of this was sodium and chloride we talked about earlier, where sodium was the cation and chloride was the anion. But water itself can also ionize or become an ion. So water can actually split apart into hydrogen ion and hydroxide ion, but they can also come back together to form H2O. So kind of an interesting property of water. But salts are really ions that are called electrolytes. And they're called electrolytes because they can conduct electrical current in solution. So ions therefore play a very specialized role in body functions. So things like sodium and potassium are involved with the electrical conduction of your nerves and muscle. Calcium and iron are involved in a variety of different mechanisms. Calcium is involved with muscle contraction and nerve communication, and iron is necessary for certain enzymes as well as transportation of gases. Now, ionic balances are vital for homeostasis. If you have an ionic imbalance, then homeostasis will be in imbalance. And in this regard, it can lead to a variety of really interesting signs and symptoms, which may or may not be fatal. Now, some of the common salts of your body include things like sodium chloride, calcium carbonate, or potassium chloride, or other calcium phosphates, and these are all important biomolecules that help support homeostasis. So it's important to have enough of these types of salts and not too much or too little of them, just the right amount at homeostasis. And there's different organ systems that actually help regulate the concentrations of these ions in our body. Now, acids and bases are also electrolytes because these can ionize and dissociate within water. We define an acid as something that donates protons. And in this regard, we're talking about hydrogen ions. If y'all remember, a hydrogen atom is really just a proton in its more common form. And these bare protons really don't have electrons in solution, so that it's just a proton in itself. But solutions that have a lot of just hydrogen ions in them, we call acidic. So some of the important acids in our own biology include things like hydrogen chloride, or hydrochloric acid rather, acetic acid, or carbonic acid. So some of these are actually produced as a byproduct of metabolism, and some of these are released by your kidneys or exhaled through your lungs. But these acids play a variety of roles, like hydrochloric acid is necessary for digestion. Carbonic acid is actually how you transport carbon dioxide in your blood. And acetic acid is just a breakdown product of a certain metabolic pathway which can be used to make ATP. Now, bases are proton acceptors. And what this means is they can pick up hydrogen ions in solution. And so an example of this would be like sodium hydroxide, where NaOH, we have a sodium ion and a hydroxide ion. Well, this actually can pick up a hydrogen ion to form water, so that if this hydroxide ion accepts a hydrogen ion, this can form H2O in water, and then you'll have a sodium ion just kind of floating around. And some important bases in our body include things like bicarbonate, or HCO3. This is actually one of the ways that carbon dioxide is transported in blood. And ammonia, which is actually a breakdown product of protein metabolism, NH3, this is actually one of those wastes that it's eliminated through our kidneys. Now, pH is actually a scale. It's a form of measurement of concentration of hydrogen ions in solution. Whenever you see this sort of bracket here, this means concentration. So when we refer to the concentration of hydrogen ion in solution, this actually gives us an idea about how acidic that solution may be. And this is on a sliding scale, or pH scale. So the more hydrogen ions a solution has, the more acidic it is. And pH is actually on a negative logarithmic scale, so of moles per liter. And we actually have standardized this from 0 to 14. These are just our pH units. So each pH unit is an entire tenfold difference in concentration. So a pH of 5 is actually 10 times more acidic than a pH of 6. So it's amazing how the scale is set up. Now, acidic solutions have really high hydrogen ion concentration, but they have a lower number, so we say they have a low pH. So the acidic pH range is what we define as 0 to 6.99. Neutral solutions, where you have equal numbers of hydrogen ion and hydroxide ions, you'd actually find this in pure water. This actually has a pH of 7. So we've defined the middle of this pH scale as 7.0, and we call this neutral. So pure water is pH neutral, and so we say that it has a pH of 7. Now, alkaline solutions have a pH of 7.01 all the way up to 14. And this is where they have low hydrogen ion concentration, but a high pH. And a high pH just means it has a higher number here. So between 7.01 and 14. In fact, most solutions of your body are slightly on the alkaline side of 7.0, near neutral. So for instance, blood is actually 7.35 to 7.45. So we don't really refer to being blood as acidic. It's actually a little bit more basic than the neutral end. However, there are other solutions in your body that are more on the acidic end, like stomach acid has a pH of 2, so it's very acidic. So this is just showing sort of a sliding scale of our pH. Remember, we go from 0 to 14. Those solutions between 0 and 6.99 we call acidic. So some examples of this could be things like milk, coffee, wine, lemon juice, and hydrochloric acid. Remember, a pH of 7 is neutral, and this is actually pure water. And then those things that are above 7, so 7.01 and above up to 14, we call alkaline or basic. And examples of this could be things like blood, egg white, bleach, ammonia, oven cleaner, or pure, 1 molar sodium hydroxide, which is a pH of pH of 14. Now, another way to think about this too is that solutions that have a lower pH are more acidic and actually have a lower pH number. So a pH of 0 is the most acidic here, and a pH of 1 is a little bit less acidic, but it's still much more acidic than neutral. And then in the opposite directions, pHs that are higher, so if you have a high pH, we're saying that it's more basic. It has an increasing basicity here, or alkalinity. In fact, solutions with a pH of 14 are pretty caustic. Like, you wouldn't want to spill 1 molar sodium hydroxide in your skin. This would burn your skin. And, oven cleaner and lye would also burn your skin. Same on the opposite end here with the acidic end. Hydrochloric acid and lemon juice can also burn your tissues. In fact, in terms of most of our body solutions, we're more or less on the neutral end of things. So blood is sort of on the alkaline end of neutral. Milk is slightly acidic as well. This includes human breast milk. However, there are some solutions in your body that are extremely acidic. Your stomach acid has a pH of 2, which is on the order of lemon juice. And these actually can, break apart molecules pretty easily because they're so acidic. Now, neutralization is a process where we can actually bring a pH closer to 7.0. So that's where acids or bases may be mixed together. And so if you have equal amounts of NaOH and HCl, this can actually form NaCl and water. And if you get pure water here with a little bit of NaCl, so that you have, you don't have excess numbers of hydrogen ion or hydroxide ion, then this would be a pH of 7.0. Now, buffers are actually a way that our bodies can actually help to remove excess hydrogen ion from solution and prevent or resist abrupt swings in pH. So what we find is that buffers can release hydrogen ions if your pH becomes too high or too basic, or they can actually bind to hydrogen ions if your pH becomes too low or too acidic. So what we find is that buffers can convert strong acids and bases into weak ones, so that we actually have this carbonic acid bicarbonate system in our body, where in our body H2CO3 is actually called carbonic acid. It's a pretty weak acid, okay? And in response to a drop in pH, what we find then is that we can form this weak acid, so that it's actually just a way to store excess protons in our body. That way our body solutions don't become too acidic. Or if we have a rise in pH, this carbonic acid system can dissociate into bicarbonate and hydrogen ion to actually make our solution slightly more acidic, and therefore you can prevent it from getting too alkaline. So this is an example of a buffer because it actually helps to stabilize changes in pH of your body. This is actually a pretty classic buffer, and it's associated with your respiratory system.